Diane in Denmark here. It is Tuesday, which in Flylady land, as I like to call it, is Plan and Play Day. And all this week I am showing you how I use the Flylady system, also the Getting Things Done system, but how it fits into my daily life here in Copenhagen now. And I loved yesterday the comments, and I was so glad that many of you had an aha moment, because I showed you how I do my weekly home blessing hour. And my weekly home blessing hour took like 20 minutes because I split it up according to our circumstances. And a lot of you had thought that you had to be cleaning bedrooms and bathrooms, and that's not the point of the weekly home blessing. Anyway, I'll probably do a little roundup video next week about all your, all the, in a way it was like opening Pandora's box by doing that. But I'll answer the questions also about, Plan and Play Day today and tomorrow, Anti-Procrastination Day. So just keep the comments and the questions coming. It makes me think of things in a different light as well. Anyway, today is Tuesday, Plan and Play Day. Now, I've told you before, I follow the Flylady's daily focus because that works for me. I made the mistake in the beginning because I work from home of thinking that I didn't need a daily focus because I can do things on any day. Wrong. It really does save us an awful lot of time and money and energy when we just kind of focus, on the things that need to be done during the week and have a plan for it. It's the same as the Getting Things Done system. Once you've got the plan, it's so much easier to check things off your list, and we don't have that kind of foggy brain, and I've really got foggy brain at the moment because I'm going through the menopause, and I used to be able to remember everything, and now I can't remember anything, so I need to have it written down. Anyway, let's go on to Tuesdays. Now, if you've got a control journal, you may have already started what is for you on a Tuesday. Now, Monday, I have written down, weekly home blessing and which things I do on a Monday, which things I do on other days. Tuesday, Plan and Play Day. Now, I'm just going to tell you what I do. Hold on, let me just move back a wee bit. And on a Tuesday, when I'm doing Plan and Play, I get myself, a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, grab my pencil and my diary. I'll show you in a wee minute. And it's because we're going to be, and I plan menus, and it's the same thing, like never go shopping on an empty stomach. So never plan menus on an empty stomach. And I'm having some, I don't know if you can see that there, it looks kind of weird. I'm having some hot, this is Swedish like kappa soup that they have at Blåbär and Hallon, which is blueberry and raspberry. I'm having a cup of that this morning because if you saw my video from earlier today, I was down with Vibeke and Helena. So you can hear Helena today. You've heard Vibeke on a video before, but now you can hear Helena. We were down having our skinny dip this morning, and it's minus 18 Celsius here today, which is 0 F. It was freezing. Anyway, I made a wee video about it just for fun, and that's the thing here, when you're using the Flylady system, Getting Things Done system, it really gives you time to, you get all your practical stuff done, keep the house running, and you have more time to do the stuff that you like. We're not spending hours cleaning anymore. That's what I love about it. Anyway, I've got really cold fingers today, so anyway, I'm warming up with that. So what I do on a Tuesday is I get my, hold on, let me just grab my timer. And Plan and Play Day, Desk Day, whatever you want to call it. I've got my timer, and I normally set it anything between 10 to 15 minutes. And what I do is I take my diary. I'm not going to show you inside my diary, but you can see outside because look, there's lovely Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and Jason Statham from The Transporter, because these are my inspiration to keep me with fly system. Iron Man, he uses what he's got, and he can, make a suit even in a cave. He just uses what he's got. And Jason Statham as the Transporter, he is always ready for anything. He has his rules, his routines, and he keeps his car pristine, and he's always dressed immaculately to shoes. So anyway, those are the things on the outside of my diary. I don't want to show you inside because I've got personal stuff, but let me see if I can get, if I can show you a page. Okay, here's a page here. Now, this is what my little planner looks like. And at the end here, you can see there's space to write menus. And also it tells us if there's any kind of Danish holiday going on and stuff like that. Oh, I can see here, and Prince Henrik, actually the Queen's husband, he died just 2 weeks ago. That's his birthday. It was his birthday in June. Anyway, besides the point. So I get out my diary, and I've got something to eat and drink usually, and I set my timer for 10 minutes, and I just get stuck in because often for me, as I'm sure is the case for you, it's getting started that's the problem. We think, oh, I don't want to do that. But if we just set the timer and say, okay, I'm only going to do 10 minutes of planning, and after that I get to, move on to something else. It's just getting started. It makes life so much easier. So here are some ideas of what you can do on Plan and Play Day, but what we're looking at with the planning thing. And then I'll talk a wee bit about menu planning, which I know everybody is always, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge. So, Tuesday Plan and Play Day, you could be planning your week's menu. That's what I do on a Tuesday. You maybe want to go through bank statements. I check bank statements once a month and just tally things off. I keep all my receipts together and tally them off. You want to have a look at your calendar to see if there are any birthdays coming up. I've got my brother's engagement, and my cousin, my Scottish cousin, Simon, he's just turned 15. He's having a party in Scotland, so I'm going to that. So that's various things, cards, travel, presents. You may be looking ahead to booking a summer holiday. We've just booked ours. Woo! It was my DD15 that kind of arranged that this year. She checked out. We're going to Greece to get a week's all-inclusive holiday, and it's going to be lovely and hot. At least when you go to Greece, you're guaranteed of good weather. So we've planned ahead for that. And then, of course, need to pay the deposit for the holiday, need to pay the holiday, so that's kind of written in the diary. Also, don't forget about things like scheduling dentist's appointments. Ooh, I can hear y'all groan there. Dentist, what about, a haircut? I get my haircut every 8 to 9 weeks, and I've got a very nice hairdresser, Uvana, and I can go into her after about 4 or 5 weeks and she'll cut my fringe for me for free, so that kind of keeps me going a bit longer. What about the doctor? Do you need to schedule an appointment with the doctor? What about going online and reordering your prescriptions? I mean, in Denmark, all of that for us is online. You just go into the thing and say, oh, I'm running low on whatever it is. And you can do that, during bathroom week, zone 3, think about, ordering stuff or... And don't forget, Flylady calls it Plan and Play Day. We've also got to play, have a bit of fun, use your pamper basket. I'll be talking about that tomorrow because I need to declutter that. Also, I find it really helpful, especially when, I made a video about it when we're coming into the winter, about planning your way out of the darkness, because, when it's a long dark winter here in Denmark, and it's been really helpful for me to plan ahead, plan some fun things, like, for example, going to the theatre with a friend, or meeting up with my Danish friend Anne-Marie. We met up just before Christmas and had a fantastic dinner in town. Meeting up with my friend Catherine, the one who's from New Zealand, and she's been here even longer than I have. She's been in Denmark for about 30 years, more than that maybe, yeah. So, with Catherine, I go to concerts, where we're going to see Gary Newman in about 2 weeks' time. And you know, just scheduling ahead. You know, I went to see Simple Minds last week. Schedule, you know, if you want to go and see a movie, I've got on my list, I want to go and see the new Black Panther movie, so that's written down, whether I go and see it with my son, or if he's going to see it with his high school chums, or if we'll see it as a family. So remember also the playthings. Don't, because too often with the Flylady system, you know, you find it and think it's great, but then you go way overboard with too much cleaning and planning everything to the last detail without planning some fun for yourself, you know. So it's really been helpful for me just to say, you know what, I know it's going to be tough for me during the winter, so every couple of weeks I try and plan just meeting up with somebody for coffee, you know, because I'm trying to do it on the cheap. Or, you know, as I say, maybe go to the cinema together. I went to see the Murder on the Orient Express with Anne-Marie. Yeah, so anyway, just set your timer and start planning, because once you start, it's so much easier. But that was just a few ideas of what you can do with, you know, scheduling haircut, holidays, what else? You know, if you've got a party coming up, you know, you've got to start working on that now. Now, let's get on to what is the main thing of my plan and play day on Tuesday, which is menu planning. And again, you don't need to, I covered this before in the 31 baby step videos. If you did the 31 baby step videos, I talked about menu planning, and I said to you, you know, I had this big huge stack of books, and I said, you know, when we're menu planning, we're not doing this, we're not getting out 150 books, because we have this tendency from, you know, maybe eating too much takeaway, takeout in American English. You know, we're feeling guilty that we've had too much takeaway, it's not healthy and it's expensive and we should be saving money. And then we go to the other extreme of thinking that we have to make everything ourselves and, you know, get the mob cap on, you know, like a dairy maid, and be milking the cow and making our own yogurt, and, you know, out in the garden growing 10 different types of vegetables. It's not, it doesn't have to be that way. There's like, there is a way through the middle. So I'll just give you a few ideas and tell you what I use for menu planning. And as I say, you find out yourself what works for you and your family, because I've done various things and thought, you know, that was good for a while, and then anyway, I'll give you a rundown of what we have used and see if there's something for you. Anyway, we're not going to need all these cookbooks. It's nice to get inspiration from them, and I've decluttered most of my cookbooks. I just keep ones that I like to leaf through, like this one. I mean, it's called 101 Recipes for Kids. And my kids, as you know, I've got a dear son, 18, and a dear daughter, 15. They're no longer kids. I mean, we have conscription here in Denmark, and my son, when it was his 18th birthday, that's the first letter you get, your conscription. So they're not kids anymore. But I really like this little book, and I like to leaf through it occasionally, and it's got some really good recipes. All the BBC ones are really good. And we went through this kind of phase of, you know, the kids would make 1 or 2 recipes a week. And actually there was a really good, oh, here we are, yeah, this one. I always, if it's something really good, I turn the corners down, but I never do that with normal books. You know, if you turn your corners down of a normal book, you're going to down there, in my opinion. Anyway, this was actually a really good one for vegetarian spaghetti bolognese. So I think actually I'll add that to our menu because I remember my DS18 made it, and this was like, this must be about 10 years ago. I said, "Oh, Mum, it was so fantastic," and you couldn't tell the difference, and we're eating a lot more plant-based things, you know, we're reducing the amount of meat we eat every week, so that this will go back on the menu. So anyway, you don't need all your cookbooks. As I say, I have my diary, and what I generally do is I just, you know, I look back at what we've had the previous weeks, and I look in the cupboards, behind you. That's my storage behind you in the bench. I check the fridge, see what needs used up, and I check the freezer, because quite often, I buy things maybe without having an exact idea of what I'm going to use it for. Normally I'm quite good, but sometimes, it happens that, there's suddenly a really good offer on something. And I have a little list where I have things, I'm not going to show you, but it's, I've got chicken recipes, I've got recipes made with beef, things that go in the crock pot. I can now start one for the Instant Pot because I've never had a pressure cooker before. Things using leftovers, things that are easy to take to school functions, big pizza slices or cinnamon rolls. Things that were good for eating with the kids. Now this is a really old list because my husband used to travel. He used to be away a lot, so I was basically alone with the kids for many years. We don't need that one anymore. So that I kind of look at that, and then I plan, one dish with chicken. One dish of the week will be, based on chickpeas or some kind of vegan mix, tofu or something like that. And then another dish of the week will probably be using the vegetables that need to be used up, and I make some kind of quiche, terde as they call it in Danish. And then after that, I add in, a couple of family favourites. Could be something like spaghetti bolognese, or it will now be red lentil bolognese. And then once you're kind of in that planning, it makes it easier to, when you find a recipe, something that new that you haven't tried before, or something that you see. I see quite a lot of things on Facebook on Our Best Bites and what's it called, 100 Days of Real Food, those kind of things. If you see something, going across your Facebook feed, you can save the link and say, okay, well, I might try that. But the idea is not to be making 7 different new recipes each week, because you don't have time to do that, and we've got to plan ahead. Now you can plan it in different ways. I've had this one for a long time, and what we used to do was write what we were having for dinner here. I find it easier now just to put it straight into my diary. So this one, I make my shopping list, and I just kind of write in, instead of looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I just go for what's in the freezer section, what's in the household section, what's in the bread section, just to make it easier for me when I'm going around the supermarket. But these are really good. I also used to make up a little, you can make this as complicated or easy as you want. I'm just giving you the ideas of what we used to use. I used to print up these little charts. Okay, they're very faded now, but I would write down what date it was, which week, and it says Monday to Sunday. And then it says here what's for dinner and who's cooking, because we would all, it was from the time when the kids would take a turn to make dinner, whether it was they were making pizza or pasta or something like that. And at the bottom, if I just suddenly thought of something, oh yeah, I can do that, I would just write at the bottom, and then I would use that for planning for the next week. And let me see if there's one, hold on, I just scratch out a name here. But you can see what it looks like. Okay, this is from 2016. But we had leftover spaghetti bolognese, and then I was at a parents' meeting and I took haggis pie. The kids had pizza, and then we had biksemmel, which is a Danish thing, and a frittata, veggie burgers and chips, and then pasta with meatballs, Swedish meatballs. And then soup and homemade rolls. So it just shows you. And what I normally do is I plan from Tuesday to Tuesday, and I shop once a week. I do that on an errandy. So I make my menu plan, I check what's in the fridge so I know what I have to buy and I know what I have to use up. And it makes it much, much simpler. This all sounds really complicated, but hopefully it makes sense. Now, the other thing that you can do, hold on, as we also used to do, if you've got one of these big Flylady calendars, this is an old one, you can write down, my daughter wrote these, I'm just checking, okay, there's nothing there, nothing family oriented there. My daughter wrote out all the things that we have a lot, you know, what's our kind of 30 dishes that we use over time, and then we add in some fresh ones. And you know, you can see here we've got breakfast for dinner, for lower and hard, that's Danish meatloaf, roast chicken. And it's very important when you're doing your planning, as I said before, we're not going from eating takeout all the time to going, you know, to be looking like the dairy maid and milking the cow. Remember to factor in that, you know, once a week you can go to a restaurant and maybe have lunch out or dinner out. It doesn't, you don't need to be going from one extreme to the other. So we don't have takeaway that often, though if you saw on Instagram we had it on Saturday, we had Thai takeaway. So once every week or every 2 weeks we have takeaway. But I actually quite enjoy cooking in the kitchen. I mean, you'll see every day what I'm posting on Instagram, what's for dinner. And I remember when I started posting that, a lot of you thought you were surprised about how many things that, you know, we get ready-made from the supermarket. And yes, you don't have to make everything yourself. Today we are having ham, because I've got a ham that I bought at Christmas. It's in the freezer and I want to get that used up. We're having ham and gratin dauphinois. I can never remember the English for that. It's like scalloped potatoes. Now, I'm making my own today because I've got cream to use up, and it's just basically half cream, half stock, sliced potatoes and onions, and baked in the oven along with the ham. Now, Lidl, I often do my grocery shopping at Lidl. Lidl have a very decent gratin dauphinois, which costs like half the price of what it would for me to actually buy the cream and buy the potatoes. And that is good enough, you know, on a weekday. There's nothing wrong with using something that is shop bought or that you haven't made from scratch. You know, you've really got to find the middle way here, where we're so kind of hard on ourselves and going from one extreme to the other, you know, like doing no cleaning at all and then feeling like you have to do the weekly home blessing in the whole house. That it's not the point. Weekly home blessing is high traffic areas, and menu planning, or planning in general, you know, plan and play day, it's just, you know, taking it step by step, and this is meant to be making life easier for us. It's not meant to be a chore, you know, this is all to help us. Anyway, I'm going to finish planning my menu before my my hot, what was it? This one is blueberry and raspberry soup, before this goes cold. And I'll post it on Instagram later so you can see what the menu for the week is. But anyway, if you have any questions about it, remember, put it in the comments, and I'll do a roundup of the daily focus videos next week in case I've missed anything. But anyway, stay warm out there, and I'll tell the lucky ladies in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, enjoy the rest of that warmth, because we're hopefully getting it next. Live long and prosper. Have a great day. May the hygge be with you, and I shall see you very soon. Okay, Diane in Denmark, signing off.